Soul Hackers 2 good?
I don't know, Cullen. Why should I care? Shield me, Daddy.
Look, I don't know about any of that, but check this out.
I'm spitting gold bars, and your talk is cheaper. I'm the RS, and I don't fear no Reaper.
I'm no Reaper, but I can send you to hell. So face the music, RS, and take the L.
DA, bars or no bars? Bars! Bars!
If you don't find this incredibly endearing, I'm sorry to say, you're playing checkers while I'm playing chess. You might have been filtered by the cyber goblin, but your weakness is not my problem. Seriously though, Ringo is the best protagonist in Megami Tensei history. She can drink beer with the boys, biggest baddie in gaming, no contest. The original Soul Hackers is pretty neat for when it was made. I think that game rules. Yeah, that's right. I like this game so much that I own it on Sega Saturn. That's right, this is legit Sega Saturn footage from my totally working and not broken Sega Saturn. Flex! Developed as the successor to the surprisingly popular dungeon RPG Devil Summoner and later receiving 2 PS2 spin-offs, Soul Hackers itself went dormant until a 3DS port of the game was made in 2012. But what does Devil Summoner have to do with Soul Hackers 2? Does not playing those mean you're gonna miss out on stuff in this one? Well, no. While this is very much a Devil Summoner game, you don't need to worry about being lost if you're new. You can absolutely enjoy this one on its own. Soul Hackers 2 takes place in a cyberpunk future. Ringo, who we stan until we die, is an AI given human form by this thing called Ion, which is,
Ion is an eternal, unchanging, ultra-intelligent observer of the times, born from the farthest reaches of technology.
Thank you, Queen. Please kill me. I'll send you my address. Ion can predict the future and sends Ringo and her sister AI Fig to save the world because 2 cosplayers are trying to end it. She immediately arrives too late to save the guy she was supposed to be protecting, and also 2 other important people as well. Thankfully though, her Ion powers allow her to do a little soul hacking. As a treat. Which reconstructs their recently deceased souls in order to revive them. Congrats, they are now contractually bound to you, and you get to be their quirky manager. These 4 will be your squad for the whole game. Now let's go dungeon crawl, pub crawl, and solve a cyber mystery, Man, this game is such a vibe. I adore it to death, flaws and all. And there do be flaws. Atlus has been sort of elevated to legendary status in the last few years, releasing some real critical darling RPGs. P5 sold like gangbusters, and the games they've released since seem to reflect that money. When Soul Hackers 2 was revealed, I'm sure there was an expectation set for another 100-hour RPG with a decent budget. SH2 is not that though, not really. I'd say you need to go in with the right expectations. So let's talk Vita? I love the PlayStation Vita. After all, it was the console that got me into JRPGs. So many passionate developers tried to make wildly ambitious games on low to modest budgets. And there are a ton of unpolished gems in its library as a result of that. Soul Hackers 2 feels like it's from an alternate universe where Atlus made a Vita game that became considered the best thing on the console by nearly everyone who played it.
Wait a second, I think that already happened.
Alright, well imagine they did it again. And this is the modern day console remaster of that Vita game. I'm certain that PS2 and Vita will be thrown around a lot to describe Soul Hackers 2, and in many instances, that'll defo be used in a derogatory manner. But you know how I felt upon booting up this game? I'm home.
Look at this street. Is this not a Vita-ass street? Atlus, I could kiss you. Mwah.
Admittedly, a lot of this video might come across as me playing apologetics for flaws that will be a much bigger deal depending on where you stand. But damn, this game was made for me. Call me a bad critic. I'm a vibe guy. Objectivity isn't real and I like what I like. I don't think I've seen a game capture this particular kind of vibe in so long. It deadass made me feel like a teenager again who'd blow his entire paycheck on whatever weird new Vita game was out that week. Ray Gigants? Sure, dude, take my money. You speak that mid-truth. You want a prime example of that delicious Vita crust? The dungeons are hallways with 90-degree corners, like almost all of them. You call this bad dungeon design, I call it sold. Okay, maybe I also call this bad dungeon design. I think people might be surprised to hear how much of a dungeon crawler SH2 actually is. Most of your time is spent in the game's dungeons, and unfortunately there's just not much variety to them. Two of the first major ones are underground subway lines, and by the time you finish them, I'd argue you've reached the halfway point of the game. Also, there's just not a lot of mechanical depth in them until around the end. This is easily the biggest barrier of entry for people, and I totally get it. They're just not visually engaging, and there's a lot of reused assets. Which goes to show just how little money this must have had compared to some of their bigger budget projects like P5, SMT5, or... Now, this could be a huge problem if the combat doesn't click with you. Fortunately for me, though, this is me, Cullen. Hi there. I've played almost every game released by Atlus because their game feel activates all of my neurons. Like it or not, I am locked in until the day I die. I enjoyed SH2's combat quite a bit. Now, I acknowledge it's a death sentence to compare anything to Persona these days, no matter how fitting. Persona's really become the Dark Souls of video game comparisons on the internet. But honestly, I don't understand the anger surrounding making comparisons to more popular things in an effort to describe a piece of media to someone not in the know. It helps paint a better picture, and it doesn't mean the thing you're comparing it to lacks its own identity. So, battles in Soul Hackers 2 are like if each party member was a wild card, since they can switch their equipped demon on the fly. Blend that with the entire cast being grown-ass adults, and you have the perfect amount of Eternal Punishment fan service to make my rapidly aging brain just squee with delight. They've simplified the combat a lot in an attempt to make the game more beginner-friendly, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. As someone who didn't grind and just did a moderate amount of side content, the battles still made me struggle quite often. Although one thing I'm sure could be contentious is the way this one handles weakness exploiting. Every time you hit an enemy weakness, a number is added to the demon stack in the top right. Those demons will hover behind the enemies until the end of the turn, where Ringo will summon all of them at once to deliver an attack called a Sabbath. As the game goes on, various modifiers can be unlocked to make this number go higher depending on the attack and character using it. The system is pretty skewed in the player's favor, as enemies can't really do Sabbaths against you. There is no press turn mechanic either, where you can lose turns by messing up, so you're encouraged to experiment without the fear of punishment. I had fun, and therefore it is good. If I had any criticisms of the battle system, it'd be that I'd like a button to speed up battle animations and a menu toggle that would automatically skip the Sabbath animation. Yeah, you can already hit a button to do it, thank God they learned from TMS, but a toggle would be cool. Maybe it'll come in a patch, who knows. The gameplay in general feels a bit retrospective, looking back on franchise staples and presenting them in a fresh way to beginners. For example, your demons will be sent out for recon when you enter a dungeon. What this means is instead of dungeon NPCs or chests, your demon buds will be chilling around to give you the stuff they found or call over demons to recruit. Demon negotiating is in, and it's the most straightforward it's ever been. They'll ask you for stuff, and if you give it to them, they'll join. Simple as that. What hasn't been simplified is demon fusion, which is just as good as it has been in the most recent games. Look, they turned elements from those monstrosities into different Jack Frost flavored oompies, so by default, that makes it the best Mega 10 to ever have demons in it. While I do enjoy SH2's gameplay, the story, characters, and atmosphere are the real winners. Does that mean I think any of those aspects are groundbreaking? No, but I also kind of think that's why they work so well. I'd call the story of SH2 pretty low-key. I think it's rather well written, a solid story with good execution. What made me fall for this game, though, was the cast. I've already gushed about Ringo, and she deserves all of that and more. Mega 10's first voice protagonist with a personality, I'm in love. Overflowing with sass, she will filter the weak without mercy. Now, this is the first entirely adult cast in an Atlus game since Catherine, and if I were to have a bit of a hot take, I think they definitely pulled off the nuances of adulthood better here. Arrow, Melody, and Saizo have plenty of baggage, and their problems feel down to earth. They feel human in ways you don't really often see in games writing, especially in JRPGs, which tend to focus on exaggerated teenage characters. Which, hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm not even in the camp that thinks Atlus should stop making games for teens. They need their own stories the same way we needed ours when we were younger. But if this is a new regular flavor at the Mega 10 ice cream parlor, I am 100% here for it. I'm an adult. I pay bills. Yes, Arrow, I would love to have a beer with you while you tell me about your cheapo grocery habits. Big mood. Arrow's just a dude. I love him for it. Melody has a lot of cynicism about the world that is pretty deserved given her backstory, and as a member of the antagonistic Devil Summoner faction, she has interests that clash with the parties. Her banter with the cast is great, and I loved seeing her process her trauma. But Saizo? That's my boy right there. POV, your girl leads you into a back alley and pulls a gun on you. A weaker man would fold. But Saizo? King shit. I love this guy. Your girl gets you killed, and as soon as this baddie Reaper strolls up to bring you back to life, the first thing you ask is if she was okay? Saizo, you are my boy, and I'd die for you too. If this isn't enough to sell you on him, the flavor text on his default costume description even says he owns one suit and it bankrupted him. Give me a spin-off game where Saizo and Ringo open a detective agency right now, Atlus. Now, to bring the energy back down to earth a little bit, I think what's bound to be an annoyance is that some, keyword some, of their backstories and moments of growth require you to explore a very long and samey optional dungeon for each of them. It's not great, but the story moments are, and the gameplay is still fun, so overall, fine. I just think the cast works so well. They each have great development in the main story and optional content, but not too much where it feels like the writers had to overcorrect for making flawed characters. With Ringo being a voice protagonist, the four of them probably achieve the best representation of a friend group Atlus has ever written. They have meals together, get drinks after work, and have really entertaining banter throughout the main story. The character writing felt nuanced, witty, and it resonated with me. Sadly, I think the style over substance crowd is bound to have a field day with this game. And to that I say, when did that not ever describe Devil Summoner to a T? All of these games are style, jank, and soul. That's part of the charm. I don't really see that much of a difference from the original Soul Hackers either. The cyberpunk vibes of that weren't lost, they're just different. Soul Hackers 1 was a 90s cyberpunk JRPG. Soul Hackers 2 is a 2020 cyberpunk JRPG. I get having a preference, no problem with that. You do not have to like this game, but I think saying SH2 lost the cyberpunk is kind of unfair. It just picked out another shade of it. In the same regard, it's also worth mentioning the OST, which was done by Keiichi Okabe's production company, Monica. I don't want to be hyperbolic and say it's the best thing I've ever heard in an Atlus game, but it's certainly up there. Really knocks those cyber vibes right out the park. It also didn't lose the genre staple of taking jabs at corporations and how they negatively affect the world around us. The common sentiment between the people who live in this setting are that, yeah, the hypothetical cyber future being the cyber present and living through it sucks. But my 9 to 5 sucks more, I have bills to pay, what do you want me to do about it? And that melancholic approach to world building is just human. And yes, cyberpunk. Spend time in the world doing side content or just even talking to your buds. And you'll find it all around you. If you don't like the change in art style, that doesn't make you wrong. This game just might not be for you, and that's okay. Soul Hackers 2 feels like a throwback to when Atlus would make tons of weird SMT spin-offs. I didn't realize before this one that, no, I don't want every Atlus release to be this huge event game. I want more weird games with polish put in the right places to give it enough capital S soul. I'd actually like to see more small-scale titles from them. And I hope sales reflect that I'm not alone here, because for all of its missteps, SH2 does a lot right. This will not be the SMT spinoff for a lot of people, but I think that's where the value lies. This is a game lacking quality of life in areas some people will find important and others could very well brush aside. Polarizing in all the right ways. You love to see it. I love the Vita dude. They really need to make more Vita games. Now I will admit, my only miss here is the cult classic thing in the thumbnail, but I'll take that L if it comes. You tell me though this doesn't have some 2010s budget RPG cult classic energy. I don't think you can. I'm not going to give this game a score. If it interests you, check it out or wait for a sale. If you follow my work though, you'll know what this next part means. Soul Hackers 2? Strong contender for Cullen Core GOTY of 2022. Thank you all for making it to the end of the video like usual. Big thanks to Atlus for sending me a review copy, Supreme Zerker for helping me edit the script as always, and Hot Cider for making the thumbnail. If you didn't know, the channel is supported via Patreon. If you'd like to get early access on videos, work in progress edits, be able to vote on video polls, and maybe even receive a vocal shout out at the end of videos, check out the Patreon in the description to find out how. This month's Metal Royal Slimes are Alex Austin, Autumn Jennings, Courtney Littleton, and Nora Van, Furions, Nipples, Happy Emmons, Hornkerling, Frozen Ace, Jeremy DeForest, Moon Watcher, Renteka Bond, Snigs, Wayne is Boss, and your friend Chuck. That'll be it for me. Sorry there was a delay on videos, stuff happened. I have a lot more planned for the rest of the year, let's see how that goes. Anyway, Soul Hackers 2, good. You all have a great rest of your day. Take care.